The Flash Season 8 dealt with numerous arcs, whether it be the 5-part special called Armageddon, Ronnie Raymond coming back as Deathstorm, or Eobard Thawne coming back as a good Reverse Flash. There is one episode in Season 8 that stands out to me. Now, this episode may be what you can consider a filler episode, but it was centered around our main protagonist, therefore, it's a good filler in my eyes. The episode I am referring to is Season 8, Episode 16, The Curious Case of Bartholomew Allen. The episode starts off with a lighthearted tone, letting you know what the tone of the rest of the episode will be like. Only that's not the case. More on that later. Barry is chasing down random street thugs, stopping crime at jitters by replacing the guy's gun with a banana and helping an old lady cross the street. The intro reminds me a lot of the comics where the Flash is stopping crime while keeping a lighthearted attitude. Then he runs to Joe's house thinking something bad will happen, only for it to be a game of Dungeons and Dragons. Joe then ends the intro with a comedic line, not knowing what's going on in the game.
What the hell is going on?
The opening itself is fun, comical, and some may say cheesy, but it's a reminder of what the Flash as a hero is all about. Having fun with both the criminals and his family. After the intro sequence, Joe obviously doesn't like the game they're playing, and Barry says to take a break. Joe and Barry then get a moment to themselves, something that the newer seasons lacked. The tone of the episode shifts to a more important and dramatic matter. Barry says that Iris is still stuck in the future, and Joe knows he needs to hold out hope that Iris will come back. Over at CCPD, Barry runs into David Singh, a character who was prominent in the first 5 seasons. Barry reveals that the new captain, Captain Kramer, figured out he was the Flash, where David seems to be getting jealous because he figured it out first. The episode shifts back to its lighthearted tone. David tells Barry he has a case that the Flash needs to investigate. At the scene, a crazy scientist shoots Barry with an energy field, knocking the Flash out. Later on at Star Labs, Gideon gives a diagnosis to Barry. He's basically becoming an old man.
High cholesterol and heartburn.
That's what that is?
So far, it seems like a regular Flash episode. Barry gets hit by a problem, and now for the rest of the episode, he and his team are going to figure out how to solve it. Everything going on with Barry so far is physical and internal. He seems tired and he can't use his powers properly. When he tries to phase, he drops the cup. And when he tries to catch the cup, his back hurts. The last shot of this segment shows Chester, Allegra, and Cecile looking at Barry, with Barry saying he's okay. Even though he's in pain and can't use his powers properly, it's still set up as lighthearted. The next segment starts and Joe and David reunite. This whole episode, Joe's nagging at everyone and everything. On the surface level, he seems to just be a grumpy old man, but deep down, there's something nagging at him. Cecile then checks on Barry, where it seems that he's running fine at Mach 10. Barry then has to fight the mad scientist once again, where he seems to look a little younger than he did previously. Barry loses again, where his vision becomes bad, and now his hair is going gray. Again, the way they set this up, it seems like just a fun episode parodying the curious case of Benjamin Button. Barry finds out that if he keeps on running, he's going to keep on aging rapidly. A picture of the mad scientist appears, showing that he looks pretty old. Now, I don't know if it's just my eyes thinking he's getting younger and younger, but honestly, every time he defeats Barry, he is looking a little younger than he did beforehand. Over at Joe's house, his vacuum machine doesn't work, and then he gets frustrated once again. Then, Barry finds a laptop with Cecile and needs to run to Star Labs. After an argument, he says he has to go to CCPD. He forgot he was going to Star Labs in the first place. After Barry's hard-headedness, he runs the laptop and Cecile to the Great Wall of China. Not Star Labs. And then says he forgot how he got there in the first place.
How did we get here?
This is when the fun, lighthearted episode starts to reveal its true theme. Barry is starting to get memory loss. Unlike earlier in the episode where Chester, Allegra, and Cecile are looking at Barry with a humorous expression, this time the episode's tone is more eerie. They're genuinely worried about Barry now. At Jitters, David notices that Joe is frustrated because he doesn't want change. He didn't like the new game the gang is playing, he didn't like the new vacuum machine he installed, and he doesn't like retirement because it's all too new for him. David says Joe's life has always been changing. He was a single father raising 2 kids. David praises Joel for his role in Barry's life, saying that he raised the Flash, saying that the Flash's morals or values aren't from the bolt of lightning that struck him, but by the man who raised
You
him.
were a single father who took in a traumatized boy who just lost both of his parents. And you raised that boy to be one of the most extraordinary humans to ever walk the earth. You raised the Flash, and he didn't get his greatest superpowers from a bolt of lightning. He got them from the man who embraced an unexpected time in his life. You were the one that showed me what it takes to just be a good person. You're one of the biggest reasons I was even able to become the Flash. For that, I'll always be grateful.
This moment reminded me a lot of when in season 1, episode 2, Barry tells Joe that he's not his father. But then he says that he was the man who taught him everything a father teaches his son.
Who sat beside my bed at night until I fell asleep because I was afraid of the dark. Helped me with my homework. You taught me how to drive and shave. And you dropped me off at college. Sounds a lot like a dad to me.
After this sentimental scene with David and Joe, it cuts to Barry in Star Labs, a place he's been in for 8 years, not remembering where he is. The acting Grant Gustin portrayed in the first few seconds of the scene already told me, as the viewer, everything I needed to know about this episode. Remember earlier in the video when I said the opening of this episode told us the tone of the rest of the episode? It's time for the entire episode to turn around. This episode is a sad story disguised as a comedy. He's telling Cecile how hard it is to get old. Getting old is a fear for a lot of people, and Grant Gustin's portrayal of Old Man Barry is heartbreaking. He's no longer the Flash who was having fun at the beginning of the episode, but now this old man who is losing his memory.
I feel myself withering. When I run, my bones ache like they're made of glass, and my hands won't stop shaking. It's getting harder to remember the people I love.
His kids, Joe, his wife Iris. Rewatching the episode made me tear up when Barry was talking about Iris, saying he's losing everyone you love all at once.
It's like losing everyone you love all at once.
The way he is portraying someone with dementia or Alzheimer's is beautifully acted, but horrible to think about. Cecile compared her grandmother to Barry, saying she never feared getting old, knowing she can't outrun time, but she could embrace it. Now, I personally believe if Joe had told Barry this story, maybe about Joe's own mother or Joe's own grandmother, then this scene would have been phenomenal, but it's still as good as it is. Later on, Barry finally defeats the mad scientist, but in the process, he got super old. He still ran knowing he might die due to the old age. But then the young mad scientist who gets hit by the gamma ray is now an old man. Barry tells him to embrace the time he has left in prison. We now have young Barry back, who is now a year younger. He's no longer 30, but now 29. Then Joe comes back down to dinner, dressed as a wizard. He has now embraced change at the same time Barry had embraced aging. The episode then ends with a scene of Barry and Caitlin, but if you want more context, watch the actual episode. This end part really has nothing to do with the story I'm trying to analyze. Overall, this episode had beautiful moments that reminded me of how good The Flash was, and still is. The Flash's writing didn't suck in season 8 and 9, but sometimes they try to deal with too much stories at once. When looking at this one episode, and seeing this one story it was trying to tell, it accomplished that. And it was written beautifully. The episode was split into 2 parts. Barry was dealing with getting old and wasn't embracing it, while Joe was dealing with a lot of change he couldn't embrace either. It was only when they embraced their problems was when they could succeed.
Oh! Damn it!
The highlight of this entire episode to me was Grant Gustin's acting. I honestly don't remember season 7 and 8 all too well because I never rewatched them, but I always remembered this one episode because of that one scene. Barry explained to Cecile what it feels like to get old, not only physically but mentally, was heartbreaking. In the grand scheme of things, this episode didn't matter for the overall story that season 8 was trying to tell. But if they had to write some sort of filler episode, I'm glad they wrote one about aging. This episode shines because of its surface level comedy, while once you get deeper into the episode, you realize that this episode is dealing with real life problems. For an era of a show where many fans stopped watching, and the episode started to becoming memes, this was truly a treat for fans who stuck along for all 9 years.
Oh